Good evening, dear colleagues. Доброго вечора, ми з України. Or good evening, we are from Ukraine. First of all, I thank to ENAC alumni for the invitation, and I thank all of you for your interest to Ukraine and Ukrainian aviation as well. At the beginning, let me introduce myself. My name is Vyacheslav Cheglatonyev. I am Chief Commercial Officer of Odesa Airport since 2017. I am in charge of marketing, aviation and non-aviation commerce and PR. My aviation career has been started almost 15 years ago. During my career, I worked at other largest Ukrainian airports, Boryspil and Lviv. Also, I worked for Ukrainian ANSP. I am Ph.D. in economics, and I am a lecturer of Transport and Telecommunications Institute of Riga, Latvia. My today's presentation for you is Ukrainian Airports Life, a war scenario. Our history, our lives have been split before and after 4 a.m. on the 21st of February, time and date of the beginning of the full-scale war started by Russian invaders. Today is 233rd day of the full-scale war, the war for bright future of our beloved and brave Ukraine, for peace, for freedom, for democratic values, for all Europe and not only. I guess now everybody realizes what Ukraine is, but I just want to recap its role, its size, and to let you know what Ukrainian airports were before the full-scale war. You can see on the top of the slide 3 photos of Kyiv, our capital, and in the bottom, Odessa, Opera House, Mariupol, the Square of Peace, and Kharkiv, Freedom Square, the largest square in Europe. Ukraine is the second largest country in Europe by its territory. France, by the way, is the 3rd largest European country. Before the full-scale war, Ukraine was one of the world's largest food exporters and contributors to United Nations World Food Programme. Here you can see the size of Ukraine compared to some other European countries. Impressive, isn't it? But since the beginning of the full-scale war, we have to compare the size of Ukraine with the size of the world's largest terrorist country. Russia is 28 times bigger than Ukraine. Since the 21st of February, the role of Ukraine has been transformed from the world's feeder to defender of Europe, its freedom and democratic values from Russia, as well as from Russian bombs and missiles. So what were Ukrainian airports before the full-scale war? There were close to 50 airports and airfields across Ukraine, 17 of them with existing traffic in 2019. The biggest and the most ambitious infrastructure development program in Europe was in Ukraine. The big construction program initiated by President Volodymyr Zelensky in 2018. And the aviation sector was the central player in this ambitious project. According to Eurocontrol statistics, in 2021, Ukraine and its airports were in the top 5 of their COVID-19 recovery rating. On the 12th of October 2021, Ukrainian airports received a significant accolade from the European Union. After 8 years of waiting, Ukraine was approved to join the single European Union aviation market. As a result, major European carriers announced upcoming expansion to Ukraine and its airports. The second part of the presentation is devoted to the consequences of the full-scale war On that slide, you can see the same cities as on the initial slide, but after the 21st of February. Kyiv, Odessa, Mariupol, and Kharkiv. This is our today reality. And believe me, these photos are not the scariest ones. As of the consequences of war for the world, I have outlined 4 main pillars, and all of them are based on Russian barbaric blackmail. So the first one is the threat of hunger. Based on previously discussed role of Ukraine as one of the world's largest food exporters, it is quite obvious that one of the main consequences of the war is the threat of hunger and poverty for more than 20% of humanity, or for 1.7 billion people. The second outcome of the war impacting the world is energy crisis. For a year, Europe has lived under the shadow of energy blockade as Russia threatened to turn off the gas taps to the continent. Now, the threat has become reality. Due to the International Energy Agency, the European Union faces unprecedented risks of gas shortages this winter after Russia axed most pipeline shipments amid its war in Ukraine. European leaders say the cutback in Russian gas is blackmail aimed at pressuring governments over their support for Ukraine and over sanctions against Moscow. The third threat is Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. The largest in Europe has been seen of daily clashes in August and September. The possible disaster at Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant potentially is even worse than Chernobyl disaster in 1986, as Chernobyl was the explosion of one reactor, and the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant has 6 reactors. The Board of Governors of the International Atomic Energy Agency adopted the resolution which calls on Russia to cease all actions against and at Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. But the heightened danger is still there. And on top of the consequences of war for the world is nuclear threat. Russia has repeatedly waived the threat of using nuclear force to have the upper hand in its war in Ukraine. The consequences of war for a global aviation system. Firstly, today there is a huge aviation gap over the territories of Ukraine and over the aggressor countries, Russia and Belarus, caused both by the war on Ukrainian territory and by the effective sanctions and bans against civil aviation of aggressor country now in force. Almost all European carriers have to reroute their flights significantly. The second significant outcome of the war impacting aviation, a sudden and huge spike in fuel prices. As of today, the current price is $140 per barrel. By contrast, IATA, in its industry forecast for 2022, planned a jet fuel price at $78 per barrel as 20% of cost. As a direct and immediate result, today we have longer routes coupled with rising aviation costs. The consequences of war for Ukrainian airports. International human mobility is an inalienable human right throughout the civilized world. Yet, since the 21st of February, Ukraine has been deprived of the right to international human mobility by a brutal and barbaric full-scale war started by Russian invaders. All Ukrainian critical infrastructure, which ensures international human mobility, including airports, has been heavily targeted by Russian bombs and missiles since the beginning of the invasion. As a result, today, all Ukrainian airports have been fully or partially destroyed by Russian invaders. On that slide, you can see some of them before and after the full-scale war. Despite our different history, traffic volumes, and infrastructure facilities, before unprovoked Russian invasion to Ukraine, today we have one common status and the same passenger statistics. Since the 21st of February, we have handled 0 passengers together. I would describe the current state of Ukrainian airports by these photos of Dnipro, Kherson, and Gostomel airports. And I would describe the current state of Ukrainian aviation by the photo of the world's largest and legendary Ukrainian cargo aircraft, Mriya, destroyed by Russian terrorists. Now I want to show you quite a unique video, as it contains only video of Russia's attacks on Ukrainian airports. We made this video with my colleague, Alex Derevyanko. Alex compiled the materials being in Odessa and under the sound of air raid alerts. By the way, you will hear the original sound of air raid alerts now during watching this video.
Welcome to Odesa Mama Airport. In order to improve your quality of service, your conversation may be recorded.
The enemy with high-precision strikes destroys so-called military facilities, which have become and continue to be for them and for their propaganda, civil airports, maternity homes, schools, kindergartens, entire residential blocks with hundreds of houses from the first day of the war. Every single day, there are air raid alerts all over Ukraine. Our people, our children, have to spend their time in bomb shelters, hiding from real threats. Now it has become the new normality for our people and for our children. As one of my colleagues said, before the war, we were looking for work-life balance. Now we are looking for work-life balance. Just imagine that since the 21st of February, the total number of air raid alerts was more than 16,000, and average duration of air raid alert was 54 minutes. The longest duration of single one air raid alert was in Nikopol and lasted 18 hours and 43 minutes. For a clear understanding, the total duration of air raid alerts in Kyiv since the 21st of February is 1,400 hours, what equals to 59 days of continuous air raid alerts, 59 days of 233 days of the full-scale war. The current state of Ukrainian infrastructure. As of the 22nd of August, the Ministry of Economy and Kyiv School of Economics estimated the Ukraine's overall economic losses due to direct damage of infrastructure at $104 billion, and direct damage caused to Ukrainian airports is $2 billion. But these losses are nothing compared to the loss of 422 Ukrainian children killed by Russian invaders, or compared to 13 million broken lives of Ukrainian refugees who have fled their homes due to the war. The third part of my presentation is Odesa Airport and interrupted flight, or I would even say interrupted success story. Odesa Airport is one of the largest airports in Ukraine with the catchment area of 4 million people. The vision of Odesa Airport was, and still is, to become the best regional airport in Eastern Europe, in charge of passenger service quality, along with operational and financial efficiency. Our mission is to create comfort space for passengers, airlines, partners, and employees while providing a high level of safety and service. We work to our principle of cozy like at mama's home, reflected through everything we do. Odesa Airport was attacked by Russian missiles several times, beginning at 4 a.m. on the 21st of February. It is impossible to predict what Odesa Airport will be after the war is over. But what we do know is that before full-scale war, Odesa Airport was the most modern, safe, and comfortable aerodrome complex in Ukraine, following the recent creation of a brand new infrastructure. Our new terminal was launched in February 2020 with capacity of 4.5 million passengers per year. Our new apron was launched in June 2021. Our new runway was launched in July 2021 with a length of 2.8 thousand meters, category ICAO 3A, all weather conditions capabilities. In 2021, passenger traffic was 1.3 million passengers, and recovery rate to 2019 was 78%. In the first quarter of 2021, flight numbers were plus 10% to the volumes of 2019. There were 45 direct international and domestic routes. 2021 was recognized as a year of commercial successes for Odesa Airport. 23 new routes were launched, 5 new airlines were signed, among them the world-best carrier by Skytrax, Qatar Airways, and a long-term cooperation with the world's largest duty-free operator, Dufry, began. As a result of all these achievements and records, in 2021, Odesa Airport was awarded the Best Infrastructural Project of Ukraine and Best Regional Airport. In the meantime, in 2021, the Master Plan Odesa Airport 2050 was developed and approved. Plans of Odesa Airport were ambitious but realistic, and the future seemed to us to be bright and limitless. But these plans have been crushed by Russian bombs and missiles. The final part of the presentation is devoted to recommendations based on lessons taken on initial stages of the war and to the way of Ukrainian aviation rebuild. The preparation to a war scenario, or how to get an airport better prepared to a war scenario. Here are some recommendations on that. Nevertheless, I hope you will never need these recommendations in your life. So, first of all, to receive precise instructions and regulations in case of war from the CAA and the Ministry of Defense. To set direct and effective communication and coordination with the CAA and military forces responsible for an airport. To determine the order of interactions with concessionaires and business partners, I mean ground handling companies, fuel companies, duty-free, food and beverage, car rentals, and so on. To appoint an airport coordinating headquarters and assign responsibilities. To set effective and constant internal communication and coordination with the staff in terms of emergency modes, financial and other aids. To develop a plan of preservation of aerodrome facilities and airport equipment if it's possible. And on top of it, to secure financial flows and IT infrastructure. How to build back Ukrainian aviation and Ukrainian airports. The restoration of Ukraine and its economy after our victory is impossible without restoring Ukrainian aviation and Ukrainian airports. One of the main priorities definitely must be ensuring international human mobility and air mobility in particular, in order to bring back home those 13 million Ukrainians who have fled their homes due to the war. Obviously, we should consider aviation as a whole ecosystem entirely, including airports, airlines, ANSP, and all the other contributors to a global aviation value chain. Aviation starts from safety. So firstly, we must restore the sovereignty of Ukraine and its air sovereignty to rebuild air navigation systems and ensure aviation safety. Secondly, we as airports must build back our infrastructure and restore capacity. And we as Airport of Odesa, we now are making our plans of restoring and building back better and more sustainable way, greener, as Odesa has very favorable place for alternative sources of energy and so on. Thirdly, we must renew all the necessary certificates and licenses. And finally, we must restore air connectivity with all the civilized world in order to take this all. And in order to take these 4 vital steps for us, we will need the help and support of the United Aviation Community. And I want to wrap up my presentation with a quotation of Polish Prime Minister, Mr. Mateusz Morawiecki, who said, "Either you support Ukraine or you support Russia. There is no middle ground." I thank you for your attention. Stand with Ukraine, support United 24 platform. Glory to Ukraine and Slava Ukraini.
Thank you very much, Slava. Gail, it's your turn.
Good afternoon, Vyacheslav. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. First and foremost, on behalf of ENAC alumni, I would like to thank you so much, Vyacheslav, for taking the time for this presentation, for sharing this upgrade of the situation on the situation in Ukraine and these lessons of resiliency. I would like to open the Q&A with a question for you. Before the war, and actually after the independence, you and your colleagues, you inherited Soviet-grade aviation infrastructure. And you have been working tirelessly over the years for upgrading these airports, for turning them into top-notch aviation facilities with a focus on efficiency, quality of service, customer experience, and so on. And Odesa is one of a great example of this transformation. Now, because of the reckless aggression of Russia on your nation, a lot of this work has been undone. So my question is, beyond the grants that you could receive after the war for recovering and rebuilding from your government, and beyond any kind of international assistance that you could receive, how could we, the aviation people all around the world, how could we assist you and help you at recovering and rebuilding?
That's a very great question. Thank you. I will I answer it. I would say completely starting from your first part. So Odesa Airport is, I suppose, that the best example of transforming from the Soviet Union facilities to brand new, as you saw in our corporate video. So before 2019-17, we had an old terminal built in 80s-60s. So with that infrastructure, we had very good performance and statistics, but it was, let's say, very bad heritage. And we were so happy when we closed it and terminated. And all our partners, our passengers, our aviation partners, we were very happy because we've got a new house. New house, it was new terminal, is like our baby. You know what I mean? Because we did everything, starting from branding until the setters and other equipment. And so, of course, our hearts are, let's say, are broken. And so we are looking forward to our soonest victory. And we will renew and we will restore it with our hands because we love it and it's our house. So thank you for your question and for your readiness to support us with some fundraising and so on. And as I mentioned in my presentation, the most easiest way to support us and to contribute to the rebuild of Ukraine is to support the initiative of our president, United 24. There are different sections and you can and you can donate for rebuild of our infrastructure, our airport. Another great initiative is initiative of Airlink with cooperation with ACI Europe. It is humanitarian aid for Ukrainians. And this program works since the very beginning of the full-scale war. And so you can go there and directly to donate for Ukrainian peoples and not only. And there are now a lot of working groups about the rebuilding and restoration of our infrastructure, but the most easiest way and the straight way is to support United 24 and Airlink support Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody have another question? Feel free to turn on your microphone. Don't be shy.
Any questions, anyone? Please go ahead.
Hello, yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, hi Slava, how are you? Thank you for the very informative presentation. I guess I'd like to ask a question sort of following on to Gael. Are you organized with your sort of partner airports across Ukraine and sort of understanding what your infrastructure requirements, certification requirements, all these needs in an organized way? So when victory does come, and God willing, sooner than later, that there's an organized way to sort of support you as an aviation community.
Nice to meet you, Jim, and thank you for another great question. As of today and several weeks ago, we as our airport were making plan of our restoration as well. And there are a lot of, let's say, very productive meeting held by our Ministry of Infrastructure, Civil CAA Ukrainian CAA meeting with the CEOs of Ukrainian airports with plan of recovery and rebuilding and restoration certificates and so on. And we are planning different waves of our restoration and of our building back better. And so there is already, and the certificates and license, of course, on top of it, because as aviation is a global industry and it is based on certificates and license and aviation safety and other important things. So it is very important steps, and there are different ways. For example, there were outlined 3 or 4 Ukrainian airports, which will be on the first stage of our building back our Ukrainian aviation. Is Odesa Airport, Boryspil Airport, and Lviv Airport, because our airports covers all regions. So Odesa is responsible and covering southern part, Lviv western part, and central part of Kiev. And of course, we are playing in different waves of our recovery. But once again, we should consider aviation as a whole ecosystem entirely. So starting from the occupation of our territory and restoration of our air sovereignty, because some occupied territory are responsible for NSP and for air navigation system and for aviation safety in that region. So first of all, we must deoccupy this territory, and then to restore and to rebuild this infrastructure and to restore aviation safety. And based on that, we have different plans within our airport and within our infrastructure and within our Ukrainian aviation industry. Thank you.
Laura, you want to add something?
Yes. Oops, sorry. Yes, I had more or less the same question as Jim. Just wondering, from let's say a country perspective, or air control perspective, or EU perspective, was there something, let's say, apart from money that could be done? I don't know. Yes, you talk about the certification, but I don't know, talent support or any type of things that could be done from a country perspective or from the EU perspective to help, I don't know, share knowledge, go back to your speed faster, because I know money is money is key, but what else could be done?
Thank you, Laura, for another supportive and great question. Of course, starting from the beginning of your question, as of ANSP, the let's say Eurocontrol, it's main border and main board of ANSP all over Europe, and Ukraine is member of Eurocontrol. And starting from the very beginning of the full-scale war, they support us and they do a lot, and there are, as far as I know, different work and consultations and other groups devoted to the subject of recovery of ANSP system of Ukraine. And our NSP, Yuksatse, also, they make huge efforts to make their plans and to rebuild our aviation as soon as it's possible. As of alternatives way to support us, beside this, situation. Yes, of course, we must to renew all the necessary certificates and licenses and so on. And at the moment, I would say, when the situation is still unclear and it is impossible to predict when the war is over by our victory, obviously. And so one of the, let's say, effective measures and support could be some training, online courses, webinars for our aviation professionals. And the main task for us, I support, is first of all to save our infrastructure, and on top of it to save our aviation professionals, because as soon as war is over, we will need to do it by ourselves. And so it is, I would say, appropriate time and appropriate moment to obtain new knowledges, new update technologies, and so on. Probably there are some Ukrainian aviation professionals who are abroad, who are in European Union, and so, and definitely temporary employment. I would emphasize the temporary employment, because we are waiting all of them in Ukraine. Temporary employment will help a lot to save their capabilities, skills, and professionality. Thank you.
Guy, it's your turn. You wanted to say something?
Not especially to say something, but I just wrote that your testimony is very, very impressive for Occidental people. Be sure we will support you. What you need, say us, we can afford something, we can do something for you as soon as you can accept materials and something. But first of all, you have to rebuild the Ukrainian people. That's the first thing. Before infrastructure, the people are very, very important, and we will support you in that way. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you, Guy, for this great remark. Yes, you're absolutely right that people are our main priority and our treasure. So we must save not only aviation professionals, but all our people, all our Ukrainian people. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I would like to add something here and just throw an idea, you know, again, I mean, assistance that you could get from governments and institutions, that's one thing. And of course, it's vital for you to recover and rebuild. But beyond that, you know, again, you're part of the global aviation family. And you know, when it comes to help each other, we are always here and ready and available. And I think that one thing that we could explore, and I'm mentioning here our association as well, if there is need in terms of training, technical advisory, see what I mean? Everything that is not brick and mortar per se, you will always find volunteers, you know, for providing assistance on that. And here I'm just, again, throwing an idea, but when it comes to mutual assistance, you know, between aviation professionals, I'm sure we can come up with a lot of great initiatives in order to help you, again, recover and rebuild. I do have a question for you. Actually, can you tell us how are you facing the current situation between airports? You know, are you helping each other? Are you sharing resources? Is there some sort of mutual, you know, airport to airport mutual assistance program? How do you work together as an aviation family right now in Ukraine?
Thank you for that question. And you are absolutely right that we are one big aviation Ukrainian family. And we know each other for years, and before that, we were not competitors. We were friends, and we contributed and we shared with all needed knowledges, information, and so on. And we also supported each other. And during this war, our interconnections had stayed even more solid, because first of all, we're people, and secondly, we're aviation professionals. And during that period, we have changed with our experience how to deal with that horrible situation. How could we save our equipments, facilities, and so on and so on. How do we treat our people? How do they do it? and to find a better solution. And also, as far as I know, our CEO is a member of group of CEOs of all other Ukrainian airports who are discussing the recovery and so on. And we are like brothers, not like competitors. And so our, let's say, mutual understanding even now on the high rate, so we can overrate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is anybody have another question?
Yes, I had a question regarding the relationship you have with airlines. Of course, the first challenge is to build again the infrastructure, but what kind of relationship do you maintain with them? What are your common discussions, like if there are any, in terms of the relationship with airlines?
Thank you for that's another great question. You see, within our airport, we did not have our, let's say, partners and so on. We were as a family, and all our airports all representative of them. So we know each other for 20 years or even more, and so we are with our partners are very close to each other. And this war once again showed how close we are together. So I can give you a very great example on the 25th of February, 25th of February, yes, it was 25th of February, the second day of the invasion. We were shocked by this horrible war because our airport, as the other Ukrainian airports, they were targeted by Russian missiles, and locators were destroyed at 4 a.m. Russian missiles landed to our airports, and so of course we were shocked. And the first intention was to address to our airlines partners in order to, first of all, to inform about this horrible situation, and secondly, starting from the 25th of February and later, we contacted and we asked to support us, and they supported us financially with, let's say, with closing their debts, and all these partners. I could tell all the list of our airlines, all are contacted to us and helped us and support us. And even now we are in a contact, and of course we cannot discuss, let's say, very strict and timelines and time frameworks, but we already started our preliminary consultations with our airlines partners in order to restore air connectivity with Odessa, and their mutual feedback is that, for example, Air Baltic, lot Polish Airlines, Ryanair, they are ready to restore their flights from the first day when we inform that we are ready. Of course, we should restore a lot, and to restore, first of all, aviation safety issues and other infrastructure, but they are ready, and from the very beginning they will support us. And so I guess it is the main and the best examples of our relationships, of our cooperation, because now we are with Air Baltic, with Wizz Air, with Ryanair, we are online, and so we are as our partners, as our friends from Borispil Airport. They also started their consultation with airlines partners in order to restart and to restore air connectivity from all over the world. So we're once again, we're a very big family, and we are a part of the whole and a big ecosystem, aviation ecosystem. Thank you.
Lolia, you wanted to say thank you. Turn on your microphone.
Yes, hello. I would like to thank you very much, Slava, for his presentation. And I would like to say that it's very important that all the European community, the aviation community, is ready to help Ukraine and to help Odesa Airport to rebuild and start the work. And I would like to say that with partners like you, we will win very soon, and we will make the work of the Ukrainian aviation much better than it was. So thank you very much for your support.
Thanks. Well, great to see you here. Let me introduce Lola a bit. She's a representative of hospital industry of hospitality in Odessa, and we collaborate very productively and very efficiently. This is another part of the whole tourism and let's say aviation, I would say, ecosystem, because hotels are also a very important part of it, and we coordinate it, and we are waiting and looking forward to restart our cooperation of our war, our victory in that war. Thank you.
Jeremy, you wanted to say thank you as well.
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for this very interesting presentation. I had a question about the slide you presented with the recommendation for airports that might face, and of course, we hope not, any war problem in the future. My question is, do you have learned lessons that you recommend to all airports worldwide to implement? You mentioned the IT system, so in terms of cyber security or in terms of financial flows, based on your experience, do you have any recommendation to all airports that might face this issue because of a war or any other type of catastrophe? Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy, for your great question. Yes, we have outlined all this lesson taken on the initial stages, and what is very important is, first of all, is to receive this instruction in case of war for Ministry of Infrastructure, and then to set effective communication and coordination with military forces responsible for your specific airport, because we have different examples of cooperation and coordination with military forces and airports board. And if it is efficient from the very beginning, you can save and you can preserve your facilities. In other case, military forces, their tasks a bit different. They are not sometimes interested in saving the infrastructure. Their main task is to defend country. And so you as a manager should be in a tight contact with military forces and to arrange everything, because there are on the initial stages lesson taken. You should be and you must be in a very tight contact with your partners. I mean, for example, duty-free operator. So you should contact them and to remove all their assets and all their goods from your warehouses in a very efficient way. The same situation with the fueling company, because it is one of the main danger on your airfield, because and that's why you should very promptly to contact them and to arrange everything to remove it from your airport. And with the other concessionaires and with other partners, you should do it in a very effective way. Also, people and staff, you should set from the very beginning effective internal communication with the staff, because they're stressed, they're shocked, and you should support them and to give them, let's say, feeling of everything is in control, and so we will manage it. So that's all. And if you're interested in some specific category of question, you can contact me directly and I will give some more detailed information. Thank you.
Is there any other question? No. Cédric, Guy, Pierre, Clément, Anthony, do you want to say something?
Yes, perhaps Guy, I can add something. I think perhaps you have on the level of all airports in Ukraine an association of airports. I think you have that. I'm responsible for the technical committee of French-speaking airports. Perhaps we could have a relationship between French-speaking airports and on the level of your airports in Ukraine, and discussing how we can help you, not only Odessa, but all the airports. If you have this kind of association, I could be just in the middle and help you to connect with our association in France and see how ENAC can help with training, but we can help with material, for example, and so on. When the war is over, perhaps we can do something for you. If you can share with Estelle, who have a connection with you, the person we can address in your country for that, I think it could be very good if we can go on many levels, not only ENAC, but French-speaking airport association and so on. Perhaps you will have more material or something. If you can connect the people, it's good.
Absolutely. I would like to concur here to what you just said, Guy, and I see a lot of people in the chat box are asking how to help, how they can support, and so on. And of course, Slava, you mentioned a few ways they can do that right now as of today. But in the coming weeks, months, and so on, I'm sure again that as individuals, as aviation professionals, but as also through national and regional airport associations, we can find a way to help you recover and rebuild from, again, training, technical advisory, thought leadership. Guy just mentioned UAF NFA, also known as the French-speaking airport. That's a big worldwide association of airport professionals. Of course, ENAC alumni and its airport think tank. And I could mention other organizations, and you know what, we should keep in touch and brainstorm a bit how we can connect with Ukrainian National Airport Association in order to see what how we can work together and be of any help.
Absolutely appreciate it. Yes, and we will do this way. And yes, we have Association of Ukrainian Airports. It's their representative for KCA Europe, and so I will contact you and Guy for the, let's say, for further contacts on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other question?
Any questions? Any comments? Well, I think it's a wrap. So I'm Gail Lebris, Vice President of ENAC Alumni. Slava, again, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time for this webinar as part of the ENAC Alumni webinar series. Very meaningful presentation, a lot of very great lessons about resilience. And I'm sure everyone here and everyone will be watching this webinar that is being recorded. We'll see how brave the Ukrainian people is and how strong your aviation community is. And I hope that very soon we will all be able to come and visit your beautiful country once liberated. And stay strong, stay safe.
Once again, thank you, Gail, thank you, Estelle, thank you, ENAC alumni, and all of you for today's webinar, for your interest, for your question, for your support, and we can all evaluate it. And thank you for your support. We really need it, and we are looking forward to our soonest victory, and hope after it. I invite all of you to visit Odessa, to visit Ukraine, to check whether our presentation was real or not, because it is, let's say, our home, our city. And I invite you, all of you, to our peaceful and brave Ukraine. And Slava Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alexander added something in the chat. Alexander, you want to speak?
Yes, a few words from me. I'm Alexander, who made video for Vyacheslav presentation. also worked in beautiful place, Airport Odesa. And what I would like to add about how you could help to our aviation, as you know, because of Russian military actions, we have lost our sample, the Mriya airplane on 2025. Mriya in Ukrainian means dream. And I have a dream that in future we will restore this airplane as a symbol of civilized world together. And I'm sure that it not be possible without your help, without help of civilized world. That's why we speak. That's why we try to speak against and against that we should sorry. We need to do.
Great.
We
Are
need
you with
to,
us?
No, that's all I want to say. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for your contribution. Great contribution, Alex. Nice to see you. Great to see you.
Very good.
So it's time to conclude.
Yes, it is. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening and day. And again, I'm sure we will all keep in touch in order to follow up on this great webinar and everything we discussed during the session. Thank you very much.